Hey, I'm Alex, a 35 years old psychologist. I entered the clinic on Tuesday morning to the sound of the coffee machine humming its pleasing tune and the clock ticking like it's been stuck in a time loop. Walking to my office, I, the resident psychologist, had to navigate through the maze of people burdened with more emotional baggage than a cargo train could handle. Makes my job challenging but oh so rewarding, the perfect roller coaster, and I'm always the conductor. And then came Jake, a subdued, sad look, dragging his dad around like he's carrying the entire world on his poor shoulders. Hey, I need some help here. It's like a maze, and my dad needs to see the doc pronto, Jake said, his voice laced with worry, but trying to keep it cool. Sure thing, I replied, putting down my third cup of coffee. Follow me. As we walked, Jake kept thanking me like I was doing him a huge favor. Really appreciate this. Dad's been off his game, and I'm just trying to keep the ship from sinking, he said. You're doing good. It's not easy, but hey, you're not alone, I reassured him. He gave me a look, a mix of surprise and relief. It was clear he wasn't used to getting support. We got to the doc's office, and I assured him they were in good hands. Thanks, call me Alex, I said. Thanks, Alex, I owe you one. Let me buy you coffee sometime, Jake offered, scratching the back of his neck, looking a bit awkward. I laughed. Sure, but I warn you, I'm a tough critic when it comes to coffee. Challenge accepted, he grinned, and just like that, we hit it off. We started hanging out, first coffee, then movies, and the occasional dinner. It was easy with him, like I didn't have to try hard to be someone I'm not. Jake was all about keeping things real, no hairs about him. He worked in his family's laundry business, nothing glamorous, but he was proud of what they built. One thing led to another, and our casual meets turned into something more. Jake was a breath of fresh air, his straightforwardness, the way he'd call it as he saw it, no sugarcoating. It was refreshing, especially in my line of work, where everything's about reading between the lines. Alex, I've been thinking, Jake said one evening as we were closing down another burger joint. We're good together, like really good, I smirked, sipping on the last of my milkshake. Took you long enough to notice, he laughed, that easy, carefree sound. So what do you say you want to make this a regular thing? Jake, I thought you'd never ask. Yes, let's see where this train wreck goes, I teased, bumping his shoulder with mine. A year into dating Jake, things got pretty serious pretty fast. We were like two peas in a pod, dreaming big and laughing through it all. One chilly evening, wrapped up in layers, we were at our favorite spot in the city, a little bench overlooking the river. That's when Jake, in his no-nonsense way, popped the question. So, Alex, I've been thinking, he started, his breath forming little clouds in the cold air. How about we make this official? You, me, a couple of kids running around. I couldn't help but laugh. Kids, huh? You sure you can handle that? With you, I'd handle a zoo, he shot back with a grin. I took a moment, looking out at the water, the future suddenly feeling so real and close. Yes, Jake, let's dive into that zoo together. The decision to marry Jake was the easy part. Living it out, now that was going to be a challenge. We decided on a small, cozy wedding and started talking about our future, dreaming of a big family. Jake was on board, his dreams as big as mine. We settled in a rented apartment, squirreling away whatever we could for a down payment on a house. But not everything was smooth sailing. The real storm brewed with Jake's parents, especially his mom, Mrs. Peterson. The Petersons ran a laundry and dry cleaning business a stone's throw from their place. It was their pride and joy, a family affair through and through. After the wedding, Mrs. Peterson, with her usual flair for the dramatic, made an offer. Why don't you two move in with us, save some money, help out with the business? She suggested one evening, her tone suggesting it was more of an order than a suggestion. Jake and I exchanged looks. We'd already discussed this and knew where we stood. Thanks, Mrs. P, but we're good in our place. Plus, my job is on the other side of town. I tried to let her down easy. Nonsense. Alex, you can quit her job. We need her here in the family business. It's high time she started contributing. She pushed, her eyes locking onto mine like a hawk. I respect what you built with the laundry. Really, I do. But I'm a psychologist. I help people, too, in a different way. I can't just give that up, I explained. It was like talking to a brick wall. Mrs. Peterson's disapproval was palpable, her remarks getting sharper by the day. She couldn't understand why I wouldn't want to fold clothes for a living when I could be helping people sort through their mental and emotional laundry instead. Jake tried to mediate, but there was clear tension every time the topic came up. We loved each other, but the shadow of the family business loomed over us, testing us, pulling us in directions we didn't want to go. Life's got a funny way of throwing curveballs, and just when Jake and I thought we had things kind of sorted, his dad's health took a nosedive and then he passed away. It hit Jake like a ton of bricks. He was tight with his dad, and Mrs. Peterson, well, she was a wreck, clinging to Jake for every little thing. That's when the real test began. Jake came to me one evening, looking more serious than I'd seen him in a while. "Alex, babe, we've got to talk. It's about my mom," he started. I knew that tone. "What's up? Your mom okay?" I asked, taking a deep breath, bracing myself. "Not really. She's not doing great, and she's not handling it well. I'm worried about leaving her alone," he confessed. "You're thinking we should move in with her, aren't you?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Jake nodded, looking guilty. "I know it's a lot to ask, Alex. It's just, I don't see another way." The idea of living with Mrs. Peterson with her constant digs and that my way with a highway attitude had me breaking out in hives. But I saw the desperation in Jake's eyes, and damn it, I loved the guy. "Look, Jake, I'm not going to lie. The thought of living with your mom gives me nightmares. But I get it. Family's family. We'll figure it out," I assured him, squeezing his hand. "Thanks, Alex. I promise we'll make it work," he said, relief washing over him. And so we moved in. Living with Mrs. Peterson was rough. She had an opinion on everything, from how I dressed to how I cooked. It was like walking on eggshells covered in landmines. One evening, after a particularly long day at the clinic followed by an even longer commute, I came home to find Mrs. Peterson in full critique mode. "That's not how you fold the towels, Alex. And dinner, well, I suppose it'll have to do," she remarked. I clenched my teeth, counting to 10 in my head. "Mrs. Peterson, I'm doing my best here. Maybe you could show me how you'd like things done," I suggested, trying to keep my cool. "Well, if I have to do everything myself, what's the point of you being here?" she huffed. Jake walked in just then, catching the tail end of the conversation. "Mom, come on. Alex is helping out a lot. Let's give it a rest, huh?" he intervened. Mrs. Peterson shot me a look that could curdle milk but backed off. That night, Jake and I had a long talk. "Alex, I know this is tough. I see it and I'm sorry. But we're in this together, okay? We'll make it work," he reassured me. I nodded, exhausted. "Together, but Jake, something's got to give. I can't keep doing this dance with your mom. It's like she's got it out for me," I confessed. He squeezed my hand. "We'll figure it out, babe. We always do." 6 months in, and I'd had my fill of getting an earful from Jake and his mom every day like clockwork. Their gripes and digs were my daily bread. I couldn't do anything right according to them, so I figured maybe if I wasn't around as much, they'd find someone else to nag. I cut down my hours at the clinic to a part-time gig and started putting in shifts at the laundry in the afternoons. Jake seemed up for it, saying it was a smart move. But then he drops on me that he won't be paying me a dime. "Let's not muck about with the taxes and all that," he says. "You'll just use the family account when you need to." It sounded a bit off, but I let it slide. I was more into smoothing things over than counting pennies. That was the plan. Clinic in the morning, drowning in suds by afternoon. Jake reckoned it was a win-win. I wasn't so sure, but I was willing to give it a shot, hoping it might ease the constant bickering at home. Plus, it'd be a chance to get a real look at the family business, see what all the fuss was about from the inside. I threw myself into that laundry business, heart and soul. Before I knew it, I was spotting gaps and thinking up ways to pull in more folks. It wasn't just about washing and drying, it was about giving people a reason to choose us over the next place. But when I laid my cards on the table, hoping Jake would see the potential, he shot me down. "I've been in this game since I was a kid. What do you know about running a laundry?" he scoffed. I was gutted, but worse, I started noticing the numbers weren't adding up. Fewer customers, more complaints. It was a sinking ship, and I wasn't about to go down without a fight. I tried talking to his mom, thinking maybe she'd get it. I even found the perfect spot next door to expand. But no dice. Jake was her golden boy, could do no wrong. It was like talking to a brick wall. But I wasn't done yet. I gathered up all the evidence I could. Graphs showing our dipping income, screenshots of scathing reviews online, you name it, I had it. Customers were fed up with the sky-high prices, the missing socks and shirts, the lot. Armed to the teeth, I confronted Jake. "Look at this," I said, shoving the papers in his face. "We're bleeding money, and people are talking, none of it good. If we don't shake things up, we're headed straight for the gutter." He barely glanced at the papers before tossing them aside. "You're clueless?" he snapped. "This is my turf. You think a few bad reviews and a dip in cash flow mean we're tanking. You don't know the first thing about running a laundry." His words hit like a slap. I'd laid it all out clear as day, but he was too stubborn to see. It wasn't just about the laundry anymore. It was about respect, about listening to each other. And right then I realized maybe we weren't on the same page after all. Maybe we weren't even in the same book. I watched, helpless as our numbers continued to slide. Every attempt at conversation was met with, "Alex, just focus on the work. Leave the thinking to me." The final straw came during one of our discussions, where Mrs. Peterson accused me of trying to torpedo the business with my wild ideas, just trying to help. I protested, but it fell on deaf ears. Jake stood by, a silent witness to his mother's tirade. It was clear where his loyalties lay, and apparently they weren't with me or the sinking ship that was our laundry business. After months of juggling clinic hours and the laundry with my spirit bent, but not broken under the weight of constant sniping from Jake and his mom, I hit my limit. It wasn't one big thing that did it, but 1,000 little cuts, each one stinging more than the last. Every day felt like navigating a minefield, but I kept my head down, thinking maybe, just maybe, things would get better. That was until my birthday rolled around, a day that should have been about a little joy, a little break from the endless grind. I left a note for Jake in the morning, thinking he'd at least remember the date. Out for the morning, back soon. Simple, right? I treated myself to a new dress, something I hadn't done in ages, then hit the salon, hair, nails, makeup, the works. It was my day after all, or so I thought. The moment I stepped back into the house, I could feel the storm brewing. Jake and his mom, Mrs. Peterson, were there, faces like thunderclouds, waiting for me. "Where the hell have you been?" Jake barked the second I walked in. "The laundry's been a mess without you, and there's no breakfast." I blinked, taken aback. But it's my birthday, I thought. His mother cut in, her voice sharp as a knife. "Your birthday. You think that's some excuse to slack off? We needed you here. You're just lazy and clueless, not even fit to be a housekeeper." I felt my heart sink. Not even a happy birthday, nothing. I turned to Jake, searching his face for some support, some sign he'd stand up for me. "Jake, you too? You think I'm just lazy?" He wouldn't meet my eye. "Mom's right, Alex. We can't have you running off whenever you feel like it. There's work to be done." That was the straw that broke the camel's back. All the patience, all the effort I'd put into making this work, it just crumbled. "You know what? I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce," I said, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. Mrs. Peterson actually clapped her hands, a gleeful, cruel sound. Finally, we're getting rid of her. Then, as if she hadn't already twisted the knife enough, she added, "You'll be paying for your stay here for the past 3 years, of course." I laughed. It was that or cry. "Actually, I think it's you who owes me for all the unpaid work, the holidays, the sick days. Let's see how that adds up, shall we?" Her face dropped. The room went silent, the air thick with tension. Jake looked between us, clearly at a loss. The conversation spiraled from there. Accusations flew. Past grievances aired. It was ugly, raw, and painful. A litany of all the ways we failed each other laid bare. I bent over backwards for this family, for this business, and this is the thanks I get, I said, my voice rising with each word. "And what about me? What about what I've given up?" "We're talking past each other, Jake. I don't even recognize us anymore," I replied, the fight draining out of me. The talk of divorce, of debts and dues, it all just underscored how far apart we'd grown. The love that had once bound us together had been stretched thin, frayed by neglect and misunderstanding. Walking away from Jake and his mom, I had a head full of steam and a heart full of hurt. But beneath all that, there was this tiny, stubborn spark of something like hope. Or maybe it was just spite. Either way, it was enough to get me moving. First thing, I found myself a little apartment, nothing fancy, but it was mine, all mine. The silence was deafening at first, a stark contrast to the constant bickering and criticism I'd gotten used to. But I filled it up with plans and dreams, louder and more vibrant than any argument. I remember sitting there on a second-hand couch, surrounded by unpacked boxes, when my best friend, Liz, dropped by. She found me surrounded by papers, my laptop open to a dozen tabs. "What's all this?" Liz asked, raising an eyebrow as she picked up a stack of printouts about business loans and laundry equipment. "I'm starting my own laundry business," I declared, more to convince myself than her. Liz whistled low and impressed. "That's a bold move, Alex, going head-to-head with Jake and his mom." I nodded, feeling the resolve solidify within me. "Yeah, they think they've seen the last of me, but I'm not done, not by a long shot. I found a spot for rent right next to their laundry. It's perfect. Isn't that a bit direct?" Liz asked, a hint of concern in her voice. "Direct is exactly what I'm going for. I've got ideas, Liz, good ones, and I know I can make this work," I said, the words tumbling out with a passion I hadn't felt in months. Liz smiled, her support unwavering. "Well then, you're going to need a business plan, and probably a drink. I'll grab the wine, you start brainstorming." So we did. We outlined everything from business hours to services offered, differentiating my future laundry from the one run by Jake and his mom. I wanted to create a space that was more than just a place to wash clothes, I said to Liz, a community hub with top-notch service and a personal touch. "Offers something they don't," Liz suggested, sipping her wine. "Like a loyalty program, or better yet, a guarantee for lost items." "That's genius," I said, the idea sparking excitement. "And I can set up a play area for kids, maybe even a small cafe corner. Make it a place where people actually want to spend time." We worked into the night, fueled by wine and the thrill of creation. By the time Liz left, I had a solid plan and a fire in my belly. It was more than just a business venture. It was my shot at proving them wrong, at proving to myself that I was more than what they saw. After the dust settled from the divorce, I dove headfirst into my plan. I found the empty spot next to Jake's laundry, snagged it. It was a mess, sure, but it had potential. I poured everything into fixing it up, buying the best washers and dryers I could afford, and stocking up on top-notch cleaning supplies. The place started shaping up, and I opened the doors with a mix of dread and hope. At first, it was like shouting into the void. Folks just kept on walking past to Jake's, sticking to what they knew, but I wasn't about to fold that easy. I made my place welcoming, a coffee machine for the adults, a small play area for the kids, even a couple of slot machines for a bit of fun. I stayed open round the clock, added security cameras, and made damn sure everyone's clothes were treated like treasure. Listen, I'll give you the best service you've ever had. I'd tell anyone who wandered in, half curious, half skeptical. Not happy with the clean, it's on the house. But when you see the results, you'll want to come back. Guaranteed. Word started getting around, thanks to the effort I put into every detail and every customer. Reviews on the internet began flipping from skeptical to stellar. "Never seen my whites so white," one said. "The coffee is a nice touch," said another. "Love the spot for the kids," chimed in a third. Before I knew it, my little laundry was buzzing, lines forming even in the early hours. My laundry became the go-to spot, not just for the quality of the clean, but for the community I was building. People didn't just come to wash their clothes. They came for a chat, a cup of coffee, or just a break from their day. It was more than a laundry, it was a place people looked forward to visiting. The success was sweet, not going to lie, but the best part, knowing I did it my way, with integrity and a hell of a lot of hard work. Jake and his mom could keep their old-fashioned ways and their grudges. I was moving forward, one satisfied customer at a time. The day it all came to a head, the air was thick with the scent of detergent and success. That's when Jake and his mother, like two storm clouds ready to burst, charged into my sunny day. Jake was the first to launch into the tirade. "You've got some nerve, Alex, siphoning off our customers with your undercut prices and fancy extras. What's the game, huh?" I didn't flinch. Experience had taught me calmness was a weapon. "There's no game, Jake, just good business. I'm offering what people want and need. Can you say the same?" His mother, ever the fire starter, piped up with venom. "You're a thief and a liar, making us look bad, stealing our hard-earned customers. You've turned this into a personal vendetta." I sighed, leaning against the freshly wiped counter. "Let's get one thing straight, Mrs. Peterson. I haven't stolen anything. People come here because they're tired of your hard-earned neglect. It's as simple as that." Jake's face turned a mix of anger and something else, perhaps a dawning realization. "We were doing just fine before you started this crusade," he echoed, incredulous. "Crusade," I echoed, incredulous. "All I did was fill a gap you left wide open. I offered suggestions, remember? You both decided I was the enemy for trying to help." The room fell silent, the weight of the moment settling heavily. Mrs. Peterson, in a last desperate bid, shifted tactics. "Fine then, if you're so successful, hire us. Our laundry is dying, we're swamped in debt." I let out a dry laugh. "Hire you. After everything, I think it's time for you both to leave. My customers don't need this kind of drama." They knew they had lost this battle, their shoulders slumping as they turned to leave. Jake paused at the door, a complex look crossing his face, a mixture of regret and resignation. "This isn't over, Alex," he said, but it lacked conviction. But it was over, at least for me. I had built something out of the ashes of their disdain, a place that brought a little bit of joy and cleanliness into people's lives. And as they walked out the door, I turned back to my bustling laundry, a smile playing on my lips. This chapter of my life was closed, and I was already